Thanks everyone for joining today. My name is Kelly Scott, director of the Farm Robotics Challenge. This is a new webinar series we're doing for this session, and it's titled Pitch Like a Startup, Telling Your Robot Story. So where are we headed today? Oops. So first off, we're just going to start with what is a pitch? So I think important for this audience and academia in general, um, a pitch is not a technical report. It's a narrative that really takes the audience on a journey from pain or challenge to possibility and optimism. So applying this to the challenge, your student teams are pitching their ag tech solutions through their 5-minute competition video. And this is functionally identical to how startup founders pitch to investors, to accelerator programs, and other competitions. So what you want to focus on is, putting yourself in the shoe of your audience members. Focus on why they should care what you are saying. And important to this, as I said before, the most effective pitches are not data dumps, they're stories. So, pulling on a little research here, in preparation for this presentation, I found some things that Harvard Innovation Lab show that founders who lead with the why and they weave their personal journey into the pitch to create those emotional connections that data alone just cannot achieve. And this is built on what Joseph Campbell, very popular author and professor, framed as the hero's journey framework. And just a little pitch for Campbell, very influential in my life in my early 20s, reading and listening to his The Power of Myth. Really nails narratives and storytelling. So just a little plug for that if you haven't checked that out. But essentially, it's the story arc. It's starts with a hero encountering a problem, a broken world. They venture into the unknown. Um, looking for a solution, and they get tested through various trials and tribulations. And that could be the validation aspect. And then once you go through that, you return changed and transformed and have impact. So that's kind of the basic framework. I grabbed a little picture here of Big Hero 6, and it's just a fun movie that's about robotics that you could watch that really nails this specific storytelling framework. And then, as we go through today's session, just to set some objectives, we talked about, using a framework, integrating storytelling, kind of that human element into what you're communicating. We're going to also introduce a pitch structure that really is built for slide deck, but you can use that to inform your video and other presentations as well. And we have a panel of experts on board with us today that I'm really thrilled they're taking the time out of their very busy schedules to help explain some of the different aspects of this and share with you their personal stories and what they've been through, which I think will be really valuable. And then we'll wrap things up by talking about some access to some ongoing resources and guidance and mentorship that you can get in the next, 2 months here of the challenge. So here's the general framework scaffolding you can use for your pitch deck. While a slide deck is static, you can use each section and build out a theme for the storyboards that you're using to inform your video content, which we went over just a couple weeks ago on creating a winning video webinar, and turning the information you gather and organize into really dynamic visual presentation of your project story. And that's kind of the end goal. And just I want to mention Christian Cuomo here is a part of the team from Hawaii Manoa, Team Aina, that won one of the top awards last year in the Farm Robotics Challenge. And he was invited out from Hawaii to Silicon Valley in California to pitch at the Plug and Play Summit event. And it was the very first pitch he ever did on stage at Plug and Play with 2 weeks' notice. So if Christian can do it, you guys can do it. You just got to dig in. And at this point in time, wanted to introduce the guest speakers that we have on board. Um, these are all Plug and Play mentors that have volunteered their time today to be part of this presentation. So on the left, starting with Alon Asher, he's Chief Business Officer of Blue White in Ghana. Alon is a strategic business executive and entrepreneur, currently serving as Chief Business Officer at Blue White, is a company revolutionizing agriculture through autonomous technologies, AI, and big data to address food security and labor challenges. As a Technion educated system engineers with degree in IT, aerospace, and fine arts, Asher brings a wealth of information, business strategy, fundraising, operations, robotics, business development, and he also holds patents in object detection and multi-dimensional autonomous vehicle operations. Next up, we have Alex Chiquim, CEO of DigiFarms. Alex is an agronomist, a serial entrepreneur. He has an MBA in strategic marketing and executive post MBA in business intelligence. Over 2 decades, he's built experience in marketing, sales, and technology for agriculture, founding and leading multiple ventures, including advertising agencies, digital marketing firms, event companies, and consultancies like Orium Agro, Orium Data Driven Marketing, and Alivagro. Currently, he serves as founder and CEO of DigiFarm Smart Agriculture, which is a fast-growing ag tech startup. While also acting as a mentor for Plug and Play and Junior Achievement, his skills span entrepreneurship, strategic marketing, agribusiness, business development, and innovation. Next, we have Alfia Kayamova. She's an ad tech entrepreneur, startup mentor, ex-CEO and co-founder of Green Growth because that business exited in 2025. So great job to her. Alfia is an ag tech entrepreneur and startup mentor at Plug and Play. She's recognized as Women in Ag Award winner in 2023 in the technology and research category for her work driving sustainable transformation in agriculture. As a former CEO and co-founder of Green Growth, she spent 4+ years building a data-driven platform that provides farmers with precise, affordable analytics and yield mapping to optimize inputs, increase profitability, and reduce environmental impact. She built it from zero all the way to exit, raising investment and scaling the company across 12 international markets with roots on her 500 hectare family farm and over a decade of experience across business development, M&A, and global sales. She now supports ag tech and climate tech founders as a startup mentor, focusing on a few things: go-to-market, fundraising, and growth strategy. She's also the co-author of Winds of Change and an active voice on startup and agricultural topics. And rounding things out, we also have Rachel Opitz, program manager for Taylor Geospatial Institute. Rachel is an innovation program manager and researcher focused on sustainability, climate, and geospatial and sensing technologies with over 15 years of experience applying remote sensing, LiDAR, optical satellite, and hyperspectral data to land management and archaeology. She currently serves as program manager for geospatial innovation for food security at Taylor Geospatial Institute. After leadership roles as senior director of collaborative solutions and innovation at Open Geospatial Consortium, and academic posts as a senior lecturer and lecturer in spatial archaeometry at the University of Glasgow, assistant professor at the University of South Florida, and research management roles at the University of Arkansas. Her work emphasizes ethical, value-led design, data-driven infrastructure, and integrating digital technologies into organizational workflows. So I'm just going to pause, do a little clap. Really glad to have this wealth of experience on the call today. And I'm going to turn it over to the experts to take things away in our presentation. So I think kicking things off, we have Althea. All right, you should be good to go, Althea.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Alfia Kayumova, and in the past 9 years, can you hear me? Hey,
We can, but you're cutting out a little bit. I wonder if you want to stop your video feed. Maybe that could help.
all right. So please interrupt me in a case if I will disappear, right?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, again, my name is Alfia, and in the past 10 years, I have been pitching more than, I believe, 1,000 times. In 2017, I became Vice President for Investments, and in 2020, we already did M&A with Fortune 500 company. And 6 months later, I launched my own startup, and you can imagine how many times I received no while pitching before raising investments. So today, I want to show you how to build a strong, outstanding pitch deck for your ag-robotics startups. And we start with title. So in general, your title should answer one simple question. What do you do and for whom? The title is one clear sentence that explains your startup. For example, we build autonomous weeding robots for small vegetable farms. As a judge or as an investor, when I read your title, I should not have to guess. I should know exactly what do you do and who you help. Well, I like to compare a title with a trailer. Before watching a big movie, you usually goes with 1 minute trailer to understand whether it will be interesting or not to see the full screen, right? And the same with your pitch deck. Investors and jury members try to guess, would the next 10 minutes be waste of time, or would it be a great fit for their portfolio companies? So try to be as simple and as clarity as it's possible. So let's go for the next slide. So the next slide is about problem. And I think that this is one of the most important slides of your deck, because here you explain what is broken today. An important note that the problem should care not only you and your team members or your grandparents, it should care your customers. So you should answer the question here: who exactly had this problem and why it is painful for them? So problem and pain goes together. So you should be very straightforward here. In ag robotics, it can be things like labor shortage, high input costs, or low yields. Use simple numbers if you can. For example, if we use the same example with weeding robots, you can use like farmers spend 30% of their time on manual weedings. So the key idea is make the problem concrete and real, not abstract. Important note that if the audience doesn't believe that the problem is real and urgent, nothing that follows will matter. So try to put your efforts on making the problem real and impactful. So the next slide is usually about solution and your product. Here you show how you fix that pain. The solution slide is your answer to the problem. So you try to explain to investors what is your product in 1 or 2 sentences and how does it help your users. You can add maximum 3, 4 bullet points or simple visuals to show how it works at the high level. Focus on your solution. Focus on why your solution is better than what farmers use today. One important tips is that if you can avoid putting video here, it will be better, because if there is a small chance that the video doesn't work, it will not work. And then it spoiled the whole, impression from your participation. So try to put a simple schemes, a simple pictures of how it works. That's it. So key takeaways from this slide is that connect directly the problem to the problem you just described. So make your solution linked with the problem. That's it. And the last but not the least is the slide about why now. Well, here you explains why your startup should exist exactly today, not 10 years ago and not 10 years later. Maybe this is a new technology. For example, in our case, when we did green growth, we explained that this is the best timing for new methods of monitoring yield, because there is a better AI neural networks that can adjust and make a comparison much more faster. So here you can put again on new technology like cheaper sensor, better AI. You can also lean on new rules, for example, new labor regulations, or you can explain pressure on farmers. Of course, one of the biggest challenges right now is climate change. So you can address it here, but be more specific here, not the general words. Try to be more specific. Show just 1-2 reasons that make this, like your product and your startup, the right moment for your idea to grow fast. So key takeaways from here is that show that the world has changed in your favor. So I'm finished here. So again, if somebody have questions, I would be happy to answer afterwards.
Thank you, Alfia. Appreciate that. Just one note, if you do have questions as we go along, feel free to pop those in the chat and we can address them throughout the presentation. We'll also have some time later. But at this time, we're going to hand it over to Alex, I believe. Take us away, Alex.
Great, awesome. Quick question, Kelly. Kelly, you will, pass the slides, or I do that?
Yeah, I'll move them forward for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So let's move forward, guys. Here we have one of the most important points when you were talking to investors. So, but of course, is important for everyone. So it's the market size. So we are here discussing or showing what is the real size or potential market that we could be addressing or that we will be addressing, and how we are in our business plan, in our product, in our intentions of go-to-market, thinking about that big picture and considering our portion for that market. So this is a 10-sum framework. It's very, very common, and startups use this every day. So the three, stages are kind of one inside of the other. So it's kind of a funnel, okay? So the TAM, that it's total addressable market. Think of the universe, okay? So the whole market, everything. If you are in this case, we're talking about the robotics in agriculture. So if you think about the TAM, it's all the farmers that could be buying or subscribing your service in all crops in all countries in the world. Okay, so it's really the total addressable market. So it's huge, it's the universe, okay? And then we have the SAM, that is the serviceable addressable market. This is the a piece of the TAM, like I've mentioned, it's a that is you are really looking to in the market. So if you are okay, I'm not looking to all the crops, or I'm not looking into the whole world. That's what you put in the SAM. So if you okay, I'm gonna be addressing the row crops and only in America or only in those 10 countries. So that's the SAM. It's a piece of the universe that you understand that you are it's important and it's relevant to make your business grow. And in the sum is the serviceable obtainable market. It's your we can call a short-term goal. So it's the piece of the SAM that you will be targeting in a period of time. So it's a 1, 2, 3 years. So it's really normally with people use 3 years, but there are, because technology is so dynamic, some cases we can have a shorter term. So the thing here is understanding when you are creating the 10 cents on and analyzing and studying the markets. This is part of a process to become a better company, a better startup, of course. And at the same time, you are developing, or you are shaping how attractive your business is gonna be for those investors. Because if you have a huge market, but you are addressing a very small niche, and your market size is not that big, you won't be attractive. So this is something that you can even read sometimes in some investors guidelines. They say, okay, our theses are in that area, and only in like a SAM that starts in that number, 10 billion, right? Because it's how they understand that it's scale, the scaling the operation. It's a great opportunity, okay? And the market size, it's the piece, is the base, the basic part for the next step. So when you are thinking about the market size, as you understand this, all the opportunity, all the the options that you could be addressing, all the efforts that you're gonna need to put to be able to deliver that sum, that is the last the last part. You need to think about business model. That's the next step. So the business model, it's how you will be addressing that market, how you will be generating. You are selling. It's a subscription, or it's a one-time fee, or how are the things? So there are some more common business models. And when we talk about robotics and more in hardware, and there is the SaaS. There is more common in platforms. In the area in the robotics, we use the RAS. RAS, that is robot as a service. So instead of selling the hardware, selling the robot, you are like giving that unit to be used, and you are charging kind of a subscription. It's some guys call it the renting, but it's not like that. It's different, because the point here is the recurrent revenue, okay? Because all investors, all business now, they are in the recurrency or the recurrent way to generate money. So when you are in a RAS model, you are, of course, putting money up front to create those units, and you are then giving them to your clients, and they are paying per month. And there are some hybrid situations where they need to pay a little more for some updates or something like that. But it's very important. The point that is a recurrent revenue. Okay, and then of course you can have some pay-per-use that it's sometimes is common when you have a very specific market. You can use the like I've mentioned the hybrid model that you combine both. The hardware sales is not a problem. Some companies use that business model, so they are just sometimes people call it one-time fee. So you sell, here's the unit, here, give me the money, and it's done. The only problem is how are you creating recurrent money, revenue, and everything. So think about this. So and think about the size of your market. So the 10 Samsung, it's the potential market that you will be exploring. And then when you have the sum, it's really where I like to say that it is from the universe to your backyard. So when the sum is your backyard, okay? So it's here. Here is the piece of area or territory and market that I will be working on. And if I am using a business model that doesn't make sense or that will be generating not a lot of revenue, that's a red flag, okay? And when you see the market and you understand the market, and when you understand what is the best business model to be used to address that market, we need to think about the go-to-market strategies. Think about, again, all the sequence. You have now a big picture of the whole universe, but you have your backyard. You have the piece of market that you will be putting all your efforts, and you know how to monetize because you've developed the business model, and you know that you will be as a RaaS situation, generating revenue through subscriptions and payments. You need to put upfront money, so cash flow starts to be built in this moment. But how how will you be addressing that market? Selling directly or through channels? Or there are some go-to-market strategies. So when you think about your client, and it is important, startups need to focus, of course, in an innovative product. But if you are locked in the lab and you are not looking to the market, there's a huge red flag. So sometimes people say, okay, now I have something, I'm going to start to look into the market. And the customers, no, it must be done in parallel, like at the same time. So who is your, like as in the screen, who is your first customer in that backyard? If I have some segments or if I have some different client stages, who is my first one and how I will be reaching out to them? I can sell directly. There is one that is called self-service. So if you some industries work like that. For instance, you are not talking to a salesperson to buy Apple TV, like a subscription, or Apple One, now they are calling the bundle, or Spotify or Netflix. So you are just doing this by yourself. Some platforms can do that. In the ag space, it's not that easy because it's a new market. People are being educated. So think more in what we call high touch go-to-market strategy. So you can do this by yourself. It's direct sales. You can have inside sales that is part of the direct sales. So you are using more a digital process for selling. All the inbound marketing, generating accountants and leads and qualifying them. So there's a huge area here, marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads. But in last instance, you are attracting people that are interested in your product, and you can approach or call or visit them to do that. You can have the field sales that you have team people that like a 1, 2, 3. Of course, as you scale, you need to think about territory management and everything. But you will be reaching out to them. You need to visit them. You need to show the product. So this is more the field sales. We have also the channel sales. It's a way that you look for partners, look for people that will be reselling or like delivering your product. This is very important. Some industries in the ag space, we have some special situations because the traditional ag retailers, they've been selling some kind of inputs, not the new technology, but things are changing. This is very good. So you can look into that direction as well. Okay. So the go to market is how you will be really making that number that is in the last instance is the number of sales that you will be doing in that backyard through that that business model, RAS as instance. Okay, so think about these three as one interconnected thing, as of course all the pitch, but not only for the pitch, because sometimes people, just to finish this part, because people sometimes think about the pitch as is the moment that I need to be there presenting, but the pitch is a consequence of the business. So when you are creating the business, you must be thinking your pitch. And when you are writing and crafting your pitch, you are also improving your business, because there are some guys that never thought about Sam when they started the business, the company, and now they are thinking about it. Okay, so that's the very important points to consider here. I'm very open at the end of the presentation to answer any question. Thank you, Kelly.
That was great, Alex. Thanks. I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but we may loop back to it. So I'm going to hand things over to Rachel.
Thanks, Kelly. So the next thing you need to think about when you are preparing your pitch is how you're going to explain to your audience. And this is true when you're talking to potential investors. This is true when you're talking to farmers. This is true when you're talking to potential customers. This is true when you're talking really to anyone. You have to explain how you are different from other companies, other teams who are similar to you. So who are making a similar technical product, who are going after the same customers or similar customers who are really in your market. So if we think about this specifically in terms of agricultural robotics, and even just in terms of this competition, I know from reading the blurbs on your teams and what you're doing, there are multiple teams who are building robots focused on weeding. There are multiple teams who are building robots focused on detecting different types of stresses in plants. There are multiple teams focused on building robots that can solve labor problems in agriculture. And we see the same thing in the marketplace, right? Lots of companies who are occupying the same little niche within the segment. So how do you really, in a robust and well-evidenced way, meaning a way that your audience will actually believe you, make yourself different from the competition? Now, the way I like to do this is by putting out some key data points. So you have to think, what differentiates me? Is my robot, my product, cheaper than that of the competitors? So that's one way that you can differentiate, right? On price. Is my robot faster? So can I cover 100 acres in half the time of the robot that is made by three other teams in this competition and the guys from Carbon Robotics? Is my robot 70% accurate when everyone else's robots are only 60% accurate in identifying weeds, right? So what you probably noticed across all those examples is there was a number involved or applied. We are 10% cheaper. We are 20% more accurate. We cover acreage in half the time. You want to find something you can measure that you can use to differentiate yourself from your competition. Now, this is trickier than it sounds in that your competition will have published some metrics, but it might be quite hard to create an apples to apples comparison. right? So if you are developing your robot now, and let's say you're developing a robot that is designed to remove weeds from agricultural fields. So you're going to identify the weeds and you're going to spray them or zap them with a laser like Carbon Robotics, who we have up here on the screen. You need to figure out what they have measured that you can also measure so that you can show how you are different or better, right? So this means a lot of research, a lot of digging into the documentation, the presentations, the publications by these other teams, so you can really, with a number against it, differentiate yourself. Now, the other way you can differentiate yourself, not from the competition, but from what I would say is the status quo, is by putting out another set of numbers, such as, for example, now it costs farmers $300 an acre to weed their farm across one season. And with our technology, we can show that it will only cost farmers $150 an acre, right? So you have to come up again with some number that benchmarks you against another way of doing things. So two key types of benchmarking, differentiating from the status quo, so from what your customers probably do now, and differentiating from other companies in your space. So I think that is everything I have to say on competition and differentiation. The key things are make sure you have a number. Now, in order to stay differentiated, right? So once you've established how you're different from the status quo and how you're different from other companies, other people making similar agricultural robots, you have to be able to convince, and this is particularly important for your investors, that you're going to stay different and stay better, right? So how are you going to maintain your advantage over the six other companies, six other teams you're competing against who are also making weeding robots where they use RGB cameras to detect plants and use sprays or lasers to remove them? Now, there are a number of ways that you can build what we call a moat, which is a sustainable competitive advantage. That means it's going to be difficult or expensive for someone else to replicate what you're doing and catch up with you. One very common type of moat we'll see is a data moat. So some of you might have caught the news recently that Carbon Robotics just put out a large plant model, right? So they've got something like 150 million samples of plant images that they've used to train an AI model. They've essentially gone for a combined data and technology moat, right? They've collected a very large amount of data. It would take anyone else a very long time to collect that same amount of data with the same level of quality and diversity. And they've used it to build a piece of an IP. They've built an AI model. So they now have built themselves a little double moat. They have a data moat that it would take you a long time to reproduce, and they have an IP moat because they have this proprietary algorithm that they've built. So these are two things that you can also do. You can have data, and I would say when you have that data, you have to be thinking really, how hard would it be for someone else to do this? If you only have 20 samples, maybe it's easy for someone else to get 20 samples. Big numbers become important here. IP, again, a little bit tricky. If you have published your method on how you are detecting weeds in an agricultural field so that people believe you, that you have a method that works and makes sense and the science community can approve it, and that's often an advantage. Also makes it easier for someone else to reproduce what you've done, right? So it can be quite tricky to have that IP moat, but it's one way to differentiate yourself. Network effects, you can differentiate yourself by having relationships, having partnerships with key organizations. If you have a close working partnership with the Iowa corn growers, you might have a network that can both amplify what you are doing and that can give you a unique access point to a community of customers that's going to be valued by your investors and by other customers, where they're going to say, okay, they've got this unique relationship, we value that. Cost advantage, pretty obvious. If your product is cheaper, that feels like a good thing. Again, this can be hard to maintain. If you have figured out a supply chain or a manufacturing approach to make your equipment cheaper than everyone else's, how hard is it for someone else to access those same suppliers or buy one of your robots, look at the design, reverse engineer it, and figure out how to make it? So you can create that moat, but you have to think how much of an advantage is this? And then think about where your biggest advantage is, and that's the one you put in your presentation or your deck. You want to be talking about these moats where you have them. The last moat that you could have is your team and expertise moat, right? So this is often the most important thing, I think, for many companies. If you have three people with PhDs in obscure areas, if you have the best team in the world at making nanomaterials, if you have the team that has the ideal combination of business and technical expertise, then it's hard to reproduce people and their unique skill sets. So this can be a real moat. Again, this is something you want to talk about. So you don't have to have all of these moats. You should have at least one. You should pick it, and you should really emphasize it in your presentation because this is what lets you keep your differentiation. And that's my key takeaway for that slide. The last thing we want to talk about here, and this is really closely related to this differentiation, is traction and metrics. So, what do we mean by this? We mean that you are going to have numbers again. I'm definitely a numbers person and these numbers are going to show that you're making progress along your journey to having your first customer, your 10th customer, your 100th customer, your move from your first market to your second market. You're going to have things that you're measuring along your journey that show that you are doing well, you are working to the time frame you thought you were working to, and you are achieving your technical and performance milestones. So what might these things be? Your first trial where you take your robot out of the lab and you go and work with it outside is a major technical milestone. Getting into field trials is a big milestone for ag robotics. The first time you work on a working farm and not a research farm, that would be a big milestone, right? That's a traditional technical milestone for ag robotics. The first time you manage to cover 1,000 hectares, these number metrics of covering more area, longer running times, number of devices, these are all technical milestones that you can note. Performance metrics, we go back to some of what I was talking about before in terms of how long it takes you to cover a certain amount of area, how often you need to repair your machinery, meaning kind of operating time, how long you can go without repair is probably the positive way to frame that. These are all things you can do to show that you're making progress technically. User validation is really important. If you have quotes from people who have used your equipment saying positive things about the experience, this validation from your users is critical. That's a great thing to put in your presentation to either other customers or to investors. Partnerships, again, anything that shows that a well-respected organization believes in what you are doing is something you should be talking about. And awards recognition and IP protection. Any prizes you have won, any funding that you have received, and any patents that you hold, these are all things that are representative of traction, meaning that you're making progress. People are recognizing that you're making progress and you are moving forward and ready to go to market. So the key thing across all of these, and my concluding point for this slide, is that you have to measure both your outcomes and your progress towards those outcomes. And it's very important that you put numbers in wherever you can, and you put quotes, you put evidence in wherever you can.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Great section, very important. So next, I think we're gonna head over to Alon, and let me pin you up, Alon. Here we go.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, coming through.
Perfect. So I know it's a lot so far, but we're close to the end. And really, all the great tips here are things that are really great also on your day-to-day. Try to think through on all those different key topics that we're sharing here in the pitch. It's very valuable to think of this on the day to day when you develop the product and the team. So last topic was traction, and now we need to build this traction and show how we keep engaging, how we execute, how we build our work plan. It's easy to divide this to 3 steps. Immediate steps on the 0 to 6 months, 6 to 18 months, that is like medium term, how we gonna scale, what we're gonna do that is important but not immediate, and long term, 18 to 36 months, that for a startup it's a lot of time, that really show how the business, how this idea grow and expand. Okay, and in each phase we want to include key elements on product development, whether it's new features, new crop types that we are gonna support, or new capability that our robot, that our software can do. Partnerships, commercial partnerships, partners that we want to work with. This could be academia or local vendors, hardware vendors, pilot programs that we're trying to do. So not only addressing customers that are very important, but also what we can do to increase in our ecosystems. Performance. So with product development increased, but also the performance of the product, and performance typically means value that we create. So also share this. If a specific development can assist us to increase the speed of our robot, our capacity, the acreage that we covered, accuracy, we want to show it here in this slide. And we want to connect it to timing. Okay, time is money and everything needs to be connected. And also financial, what we're planning in terms of revenue that we can achieve, in funding round that is achieved, or anything else that is relevant, but keep it high level. And really what we want to show here is we want to show that we're dreaming big. We have this big problem. We have this a long story that, or a long journey that we want to do, but we anchor this in achievable pieces, in something that is achievable, and we know step by step what we need to do, and how we're going to execute it. Okay, so it's not just thoughts, it's actual detailed work plan. Next slide. After doing this roadmap, it could be in the same slide, or it could be a little bit after in a dedicated slide. Before we wrap up, we want to show the big picture. Okay, still coming back to the vision and coming back to the maybe a little bit the emotional side of the storytelling. And after we show how the next 3 years gonna look like, this is a good time to coming back and say, how the story evolves and what we want to achieve in the end. What is our North Star, and how we believe that if we're gonna execute these milestones, what impact can we create to the world? So it's really nice way to wrap up the story. Next slide. Thank you. Now the team. The team is important slide. We want to be genuine and we want to show passion. Okay, probably passion is the most important element of the team. Typically, me personally, I love to have each individual has its own really nice, clear shot. Try to make it before, not with a funny background or things like that. So it could be a nice team shot if you guys want it, of course, preferred with the robots or something like this, but at least keep it clear that it's easy to recognize and see each person in the team individually, and give him the time and the space in the presentation to share a little bit about each one, okay? Each one of you. For each person, you should highlight what is the relevant, who are you? First of all, of course, a clear name, the role, and what makes you qualified. Speak about relevant experience, technical information, maybe past accomplishment from school, from work, from project that you did that are relevant. Did you maybe worked in a farm, or are you coming from a farming or technological community? Keep it short, but show the relevant things. It's also it's not have to be written, but it's good to connect here a passion or connection in a brief, not a full story, but a brief description of each person. Remember that in those early phases of a startup, investors, partners, customer, a lot of time they choose you as a person much more than necessarily they choose the product. So you really want to emphasize why you care, why you're gonna be there tomorrow, why you're gonna be persistent and make sure this is successful. And also, besides the team, you can mention, definitely can mention, and the advisors and mentors, people that are supporting you to make this successful. So you can put whether it's a headshot or a description, but this is also very beneficial for the first time. So coming back, very important here to be genuine. Don't try to put a lot of fancy frames and each people here is Elon Musk. Try to keep it genuine and show the passion that you guys have, why you really care and why you're gonna make this successful. And last one, the ask. The ask and the use of fund. This is an optional. It depends on the format and your specific situation. I personally do believe in this because you want to be concise, and this is also something that show how, I would say, accurate you are and what you need. What do I need to make this successful? Now, the most important thing in the ask is to typically it says, we need $20,000 for 1, 2, 3. But most importantly is to show the outcome. Okay? It's less important, or no one necessarily cares if you take this money and you buy 2 Jetson and 3 sensors and you're paying for a designer. You want to show what the outcome of the money gonna be. It's gonna help us, deploy 2 paying customers. It's gonna help us take 4 prototypes for the first article production with higher accuracy. Okay, so this slide, on one hand, you can say what is the need on the left side, and on the right side, what is the outcome that this gonna give. The outcome could be, again, product development, it could be from field trials or customers, it could be growth of the team, market research that you want to execute and learn from it, or things of this nature. Okay, so I have example. We need and we plan to invest $20,000 to expand testing across 3 crops, get 1 paid customer, and improve our accuracy rate to 97%. Okay, so then it's very clear to connect. It should be, of course, connected to your phase 1, 0 to 6 months in the work plan or whatever the time frame is. But here, be concise because this is the end of the presentation. So you want, after you shared a big story, you show the traction, you show why, why now, why you're the right team, why it's such an important problem. This is what I need as a next step to make this successful. That's it.
Thank you so much, Alon. All right, we are going to go into the final slides here and talk about next steps. But before we do that, I just want to mention to everybody that's listening, if you're having a little bit of trouble picturing yourself as a startup because you're like, well, we're just not there yet, I would just substitute a couple words in your mind. So we've talked a lot about impressing investors. If you just change that to somebody that I want to impress, which could be a judge in this competition. And on that last slide that was talking about, what are we going to do or what are we going to ask for? And then how are we going to use those funds? You could easily put in there, if we won the grand prize of the Farm Robotics Challenge, here is how we would use that money to advance our project. And I think something like that would impress the judges that you're thinking long term, beyond just being part of this competition. So I think that's how you can use all the information that we've given you here today. And as a potential next step, the mentors on the call here, Alon, Alex, Althea, and Rachel, have all agreed to continue to mentor you on your pitches and help you put together a really refined final project to be, ramp up your chances for winning in the Farm Robotics Challenge. So, I think this is a great resource for the teams out there that take advantage of this. The way we're going to manage this is through our website. And I'm just going to lead you through this. At the link there on the resources tab of our website, that long list that you can scroll through on our website has all our webinars posted. There's a section that says general info that has a button that you can just hit for mentor request form. And basically, that information is going to come to me. I'll gather it up and then I will share it with the mentors and we'll pick one of them to connect with you to set up a time to talk about your pitch. And for the teams, I would say going into this meeting, you need to be really prepared. You need to have gone through this webinar, have everything together, and bring your A project to this group so that they can evaluate where you're at and then help you refine some of those last things before you submit it to the competition in the form of your video and your written report. So with that, I would say, I would recommend you definitely take us up on this opportunity. It's going to give some extra expertise and guidance into what you're presenting, which in the end is going to make an impression on the judges that you went through all these steps. So keep at it. I know we're just at time here. I don't see any questions that popped up in the chat, but I will just say I'll hold on for 30 more seconds while I'm thanking all the great support we had on this call today. Alon, Rachel, Althea, Alex, can't thank you enough for offering your expertise, for this presentation, but, also ongoing through the competition. It means a lot to us and the students and faculty members involved in that. So on behalf of everybody, really appreciate the time and guidance you've given us today. And it looks like we're getting some messages in the chat, lots of thank yous and exclamation points. So without any questions, I think we'll close it there. We will post this recording up, probably be next week, along with a slide deck so that anybody who wasn't able to attend can go through things. So appreciate everything that you put in today. Thank you all.